question then, you are wanting to find the perimeter of the triangle. Just remembering that it's perimeter because that will probably be helpful in a sec. That means that to start off with you need to know what the side AB is. You've got two sides with an angle, that means that you are using the cosine rule. So that is A squared equals B squared, add C squared minus 2BC cos A. So you need to label your triangles with an A, a B and a C. So this would be A, B, C. And that side is A because you label your triangle with a capital A. So subbing that in then, you have got A squared equals 90 squared, add 60 squared, minus 2 times 90 times 60 times by cos of 130. Once you've popped that in your calculator, it says that A squared is equal to 18642 and then a load of decimals. You want to leave that in your calculator exactly as it is, so then you can square root it to get 136.5. And by leaving it in your calculator, it means that you're not going to get any rounding errors. So then going back to the fact that it wants the perimeter, so you need to do 136.5 added to 90, added to 60, and that gets you an answer of 286.5 because it asked you to do it to one decimal place. Next question is a histogram question, and it's a particularly awful histogram question because it doesn't have the frequency density. That means that you need to try and figure out a value for the graphs. Now, whether you use a bigger box, I'm going to use every single little box and try and figure out how many farms each of them is worth. So you do that by using this first statement, that 90 of the farms have an area of 10 hectares or less. So that's this first bar. So the first thing you need to do is figure out how many little squares are there in that bar. So across this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going up this 15, so that means that there is 75 little boxes in total. That's the area of that one. If you want to figure out how much each is worth, you know that it's all worth 90. So 90 divided by 75 is 1.2. So every little box on this graph is worth 1.2 farms. So that means that you need to figure out how many little boxes each of your bars has. So the first one was 75. If you count on the second one, you'll find there's 105. Third one, 120. Fourth, 100. 50 and 45. So the next step is to figure out how many farms is each of those bars worth. And you're going to do that by multiplying each of these values at the bottom by 1.2. So the first one we already knew that was 90. We get it by doing 75 times by 1.2. The next one you're going to get by multiplying 105 by 1.2, and that gets you 126. 120 times 1.2 is 144. 100 times 1.2 is 120. 50 times by 1.2 is 60. And 45 times by 1.2 is 54. So those values at the top are how many farms each bar is worth. And then you need to go on to figure out your arable farms. So the first bit, we want 60% of the farms with an area of 100 hectares or less. So that is the first half of your graph before that line. If you add all of them up, you get 480. So what you actually want is 60% of 480, which is 288. The next bit, you want half of the farms that are more than 100. So that means that you want half of 114, which is 57. Then you want to add those two values together, which gets you 345. That is a particularly cruel and horrible question to be nearly at the end of the paper. This one isn't necessarily quite as bad, it's just more about your ability to manipulate algebra. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it up by all of 4x add 5, so that means I'm left with 5 lots of 2x add 1 squared equal to 5x take 1, all multiplied by 4x add 5. You would have to use a grid for the first side and a grid for the second with double brackets in order to expand them. But if you did that, you'd get 5 lots of 4x squared add 4x add 1 equal to 20x squared add 21x take 5. Multiply the left-hand side by 5, leaves you with 20x squared add 20x add 5. And then obviously the right-hand side hasn't changed. So simplifying that because you want it to be something that you can solve, so you can notice that there's the x squared on both sides that will cancel out. I'm going to subtract 20x, so I get 5 is equal to x take 5. Add 5 onto the other side and you get that x equals 10. And you're done.